Hi, it's Dr. Maggie Perry with Tell Me What You're Proud Of. This week we'll be having the fourth session with Nicole, and Nicole and I are talking after I met with Dr. Christina Pascarzi, and Nicole had two sessions where we primarily discussed the crisis that led her into psychotherapy, and then how she's used psychotherapy to increase her self-observation, her self-compassion, and her perfectionism. And that has had impact both in her relationships and in her work life. So Nicole, can you start us off about what came to mind as you were listening to the consultation that I had with Christina?
Yeah, I think it reminded me and re-highlighted some of the things that we have talked about in working together and some of the things that have really changed as I've been talking to you. I think one of the big things that we've talked about and worked on is self-compassion. And I think if I think about before and after therapy, I think one of the important things that you've helped me learn is actually just experiencing and letting the feelings and painful things peak and pass. I guess the hard feelings will just kind of peak and pass. And if you experience them, they will go and your mood will change. And I think the hardest part for me before therapy was kind of the self-criticism that I would attach onto those feelings. So if I felt anxious, it would kind of be like, why am I feeling this way? How do I make this feeling go away? How come no one else feels this way? And I think a lot of that was more painful than actually just feeling the feeling in the moment. Or if I went through something, say like a bad date, it would get like, why do I always go on bad dates? Like, what's wrong with me that this always keeps happening? So being able to learn self-compassion, it was a lot easier than to maybe deal with, say, a bad day at work. And those would just pass a lot easily than attaching all these other feelings and thoughts on top of it.
Yeah, that's great. So you would really add either catastrophic thinking or hopeless, helpless, worthless thinking that this is because of me, there's nothing I can do to change it and it's going to last forever. That makes sense. So actually the change, I appreciate what you're saying, but I'm very aware that that's very challenging to do. So just to break it down a little bit more, I assume you first had to learn what the feelings were that you were experiencing. Were there any particular tools, or can you describe the process that helped you even recognize what you were feeling in the first place?
Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like I forget that in the beginning, and it's still one of the most challenging parts, that when I have a bad feeling, it just feels like an overwhelming wave of things. So it's hard to actually realize what's going on and realize oh wait, I'm feeling angry and now I'm feeling sad. And because of that, I'm attaching all these other feelings. It just feels like, oh my God, everything's out of control. I'm so angry, I'm lashing out at everyone. So it's hard to identify those. But in the beginning, I think you gave me an app that was really helpful. It was a mood tracker app, and it was a big grid of different colors. And you could kind of move a little clicker around between hey, I'm high energy, and high intensity right now, I'm probably angry. And it gave more language, all the different shades of feelings that I felt. And that was helpful to kind of track.
To cut you off for a second, that one's called Mood Meter.
Yeah.
Good example. Thank you. And tell me more about how you learned what feelings you were having.
I think it was in talking with you, it gave time to reflect and break down maybe an event or a painful time into a different, into a set of feelings. Then I think over time we were able to see a pattern where it's hey, if I feel really angry, I'm probably going to feel pretty sad afterwards. And then maybe even that for a few days. So in breaking down the feelings and reflecting with you and realizing a pattern, it's easier to identify oh, that feeling I'm feeling now because I was just really angry is probably this. And then know what might be coming next.
Yeah, that's great. And just to follow that a little bit further, can you tell why anger makes you feel sad?
I think, I don't know if defense is the right word, but I feel anger is a top feeling or an outward facing feeling, or it's a way to displace a really painful emotion outwards. And then I think that maybe the front of the emotion and then the back of the emotion internally is like a sadness. It's like almost at first there's like an outward outlash, and then it follows on the back of just like a deeper, sadder feeling underneath.
That's a really good description. And then can you tell why sadness can sometimes, or in the past, why sadness lasted for days? What else would you add to it?
Yeah, I feel like I would add, like we were talking about with the self-compassion, add like feelings on top of it of like, why do I feel this way?
Yeah.
Do
Or
others
like
feel this way? And then it would feel,
interpretations. Sounds like
yeah,
interpretations. Yeah, go on.
yeah. And then I think I would also just feel really lonely on top of like that feeling would follow. And then it would feel hard to reach out to friends and just feel like, oh, I'm really sad right now. And then it would just all kind of compound and last for longer than just a feeling that would peak and pass.
So if I can break that down a little bit, basically anger would then make you feel sad, or sadness and anger would show up at the same time. And then you would add the thought, I feel sad and no one else feels sad, which would trigger loneliness. And then loneliness would make you not want to connect. And it would be kind of self-fulfilling that the more that you withdrew, the more lonely you felt.
Yeah.
And now, in addition to having self-talk that's more compassionate, what do you do that's more compassionate?
I feel like when those feelings come, it's easier to be like, oh, this is just a feeling that I have that other people also have. Like, there's nothing that is like, it doesn't mean anything's like wrong with me. And then also reaching out to people or being like social when I have those makes it easier to get in and out of them. I think also I have like a number of friends that are in therapy, and I think they do the same things now. So it makes me feel even like less alone when I'm feeling those feelings. Like I had a friend reach out with everything COVID going on, just being like, I feel like really disconnected from everyone right now. And then I think just even those social signals of being like, oh, other people feel this way too. Like it's not such like a me feeling, like everyone's kind of going through the same feelings at different times.
Yeah, that's great. So, I mean, that does also speak to the people that you've chosen to be close with. It sounds like you all have similar values, and then you can support each other in similar ways.